Hi, welcome back. I'm Susan B. Lochocki, running for President of the United States as a write-in. This is my Matters studio, and this is a Talk Tuesday about police and crime and guns and all sorts of good stuff. So welcome. This is part 2, and I want to talk about police now. So I think this year we've seen, a lot of sad truths that are going on in the police force in some places. And I'm sure there's a lot of things going on that we still haven't seen even. But there's also a lot of good things that we haven't seen either. And, sometimes the media portrays things really bad because they want you to watch, so we have to be a little careful with what the media tells us about things too. Now, what I do feel is that, what's become apparent to me that in some states, the requirements for being a police officer are not very difficult. So, within 6 months of being outside of high school, in some states, you can become a police officer. And, with the amount of angry young men that we have roaming about in their late teens, early 20s, I don't know if 6 months is enough training. So, for me, it's clear that we need to standardize a system of training of police officers, and we need to standardize, just that. It should include diversity training, peace training, and cultural training. So, I think we need to work with that. We also maybe need to do some apprenticeship training where you train in different cities. And with that said, I still think that the real police, not the apprenticeships, but the police officers working in a neighborhood should be from that neighborhood. So what happens could be that people apply for it and they're turned down because of real reasons or because of fake reasons, so we have to also keep that in mind. Instruments of prejudice have been in place for a long time, and through no fault of a lot of us, unfortunately that's the sad truth. But it's not too late to change, and it's not too late to start in a new direction. So I think that, better police training is definitely important. Longer, children should not be policing adults. No. So education is key. Then my understanding too is that there are policemen who really take their job seriously and who get very involved and pick up one task after the other and end up working 2 or 3 jobs within the police force, and are probably overworked, overstressed, and that's also a little bit unhealthy. So we do need people in the force. We do need people, going through the program and learning about it. I think also maybe for policemen, a 5-day work week is probably not a good idea. I think, definitely a 3-day work week. You need time to get over some of the things you experience, and Yeah, to keep a level head and a clear head. And you need lots of vacation time too. I don't think police officers are getting enough vacation time. Um, yeah, so that's also important. I think we have an over-militarized police force, and that seems to be in most states. Now, I know that, men like guns, they like their powerful weapons. And yeah, but the people out there are just citizens. We're citizens, we're not the enemy. And you're walking around with military weapons that are for enemies. Using tear gas on a peaceful protest is not acceptable. Driving into crowds, trying to do crowd control, is not acceptable. No. When people are rioting, that's a different story. Then stronger measures might need to be taken. But again, plowing a car into people, I don't think that's a good idea. I'm still not sure that tear gas is the right idea. There's got to be other solutions. Part of the main issue is there are underlying issues in the culture that have been continuing and allowed to continue, and that is the biggest problem, that we've never or haven't in a long time dealt with brutality and poverty and oppression of certain folks. And it's time to do that. When we deal with the oppression that's going on, we come to terms with it and we insist that it stops. That's when we'll see anyways that riots won't be happening. The public is trying to say something to you, Mr. President. You need to listen. There is lots of oppression going on. It's easy to hide and make it look like it doesn't exist. But it does, as we've seen many times over. And, my suggestion was, when the peaceful protests were going out, rather than use tear gas and other things on them for crowd control, if you went out and handed out apples, or if you went out and handed out water, or, supported the people in their frustration, you would have seen different results. So, yeah. We have a lot of work in front of us in that area, for sure. So anyway, overall, the police force is needed. What is not needed is the military weapons in the police force. Certain things like a gun, sure. But you don't need like 3 different ways to stop somebody. You don't need a taser, you don't need a gun, and you don't need a knife, and you don't need all these different things. This is over-weaponized. These are civilians. It's not an army taking over the country. These are your neighbors. So, for me, demilitarizing the police around the country is a high priority. For me, training and getting new, well-trained and just well-trained police officers is high priority. Changing how long a police officer works on a weekly basis needs to change too. And vacation time, mental health checks, and just overall, better working environments. Because when the police are stressed, then they make bad decisions too. So you have a heated problem, so these things, crime incites anger and frustration and hate and everything, and then you add stress onto it, and then you get very volatile situations. And I don't like what we saw. It doesn't have to be that way. So it is time to really get a program organized, get people working in their neighborhoods only, with some apprenticeships going around so that they can get to understand the environment of the United States, and then you work in your community. I also think that sending out policemen to hunt for people doing wrong is also a bad idea. What should happen is people should call the police when something occurs. So if somebody breaks into your house, you call the police and they come. If your purse is stolen, you call the police and they come. If you're scammed online, you contact the police and they take care of it, or whomever they send you to. So this is how you deal with it. Having policemen patrolling is like having policemen hunting for people. And if you follow anybody for a few minutes, for 5 minutes, you can find them do something wrong and a reason to arrest them. So this is a bad policy to have police on the beat in that way. Policemen can walk around and just look, but they shouldn't be looking for arresting people, and they shouldn't have quotas that they have to fulfill. There shouldn't be a certain amount of speeding tickets or a certain amount of arrests made or anything like that. This is all a bad idea. Ultimately, police is one side. Police is trying to keep the majority of the people safe from crime, right? That's their job. But the real problem is crime itself, and that I'll talk about in another video. But so this is my one on policemen, policewomen. I'm fine with everybody being a police officer. I think there should be a certain standard, that somebody has to be able to pass. The walls when you're out chasing down somebody perhaps, or if you have to do something strenuous, it doesn't look at you and say, oh, you're a woman. It says, this is how I am. The wall is so high, it's not going to lower itself for a woman. So there are some level of endurance and standards of strength that do need to be matched. But and this should be something that goes on actually every 2 years. There should be a test, because I think some of the men